And we're back, guys, for another Windows Defender test. So Defender will be going up against Kaspersky. We're not really going to get into the whole politics about Kaspersky. I know the Germans, and I think I can't remember which other country advised not to use Kaspersky products, especially during this time. But we're not going to get into the politics. We just want to test the product itself. So we also had a request to enable the sandbox for Windows Defender, so we'll do that. I'm not sure if it's going to work for this VM, because I know the CPU that I allocated for this VM does not support virtualization technology, but we'll quickly have a look-see. So for those who are interested to see how you can enable this, you can either do this via your programs and features. You can turn on the feature, and then almost way at the bottom you can enable sandbox, but as you guys can see, processor does not have required virtualization capabilities, so we haven't enabled that. So we can't do it via this. So via PowerShell you can do it again. Let's just run this with administrative rights. So there is another command that you can run. The other command actually fails because of the VT that's not enabled, but you can use this command where you actually enforce it. So I just want to see that you guys can see that we are setting it. So as you guys can see, it's been set successfully. So we are just going to quickly restart this machine. Once it's back up and running, we will continue the test. And we're back up and running. So while Defender is loading everything, we're going to look at the settings for Kaspersky. Okay, let's have a look at the settings. Okay, so for file antivirus, as you guys can see, we set it to block mode, so we left it on the same settings as the last time. So we're not setting it to do it automatically anymore. Now we're setting it to block. Hopefully this way it eliminates a lot of advanced scanning and things like that. So it's set to block mode. All files, heuristic is high, and all the compound files is set to all as well. And all the scan technologies are enabled. Web antivirus, that we left on block the download, and all the settings as per last time. Mail antivirus, not testing but just showing it. Network attack blocker is enabled, no exclusions. AMS integration is enabled. System watcher is enabled, set block action and to rollback if there is any ransomware activity, and the KSN is enabled as well. Under general, just quickly showing you guys everything is enabled. Self-defense is also enabled. We only have one exclusion, as you guys know, that's just the script. Oh, sorry, my bad. So that's general, threats and exclusion, that's that. Reports, quarantine, network settings. Interface, we left it as is. We're not going to use the Teddy for this one. And that's about it. So let's quickly look at Defender. We have also used the tool as well. Okay, so now for the tool, as you guys can see, same setting as the last time. We left it on high, we're not using as max. So just quickly going through that. Okay, done. Now we're going to look at the settings itself. Okay, so as you guys can see, everything here is enabled. Controlled folder access is enabled. Repetition based, everything is enabled. Core isolation enabled. Exploit protection, sorry I didn't show that, that's also enabled. And the firewall is enabled as well. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna quickly pause the protection for both of these. Kaspersky is already paused. gonna extract the malware and then we'll jump right into it. Okay, and all the malware has finally been extracted, so we're gonna test 1812 samples for both of them, as you guys can see. So let's just quickly make sure that all these products are fully up to date. Okay, and both products are fully up to date, so let's get the protection going. Maybe before we do that, let's just make sure. Okay, so as you guys can see, both machines are clean. Okay, so let's start with the protection. Okay, so Kaspersky and Defender is now enabled. So you guys can see everything is green, good to go. All the settings are as is, so I think we can start this test. Okay, so let's see who gives us our first pop-up. Okay, and Defender gave us our first pop-up, that's good. Let's just see what Kaspersky is doing. Okay, so we're getting some error messages, that's good. Kaspersky turned red, so it's picking up malware. I'll point out if there's anything interesting, but otherwise I'm just going to let these two attend to the malware and then I'll be right back. Okay, and the test is finally done for both of them, so let's quickly have a look-see. For Kaspersky we have 1, 2, but let's just close everything to make sure that we do clear out. So this is also running on the machine, same for Defender. We'll just close this. Okay, so we still have 1, 2 running in memory, 3, 4 running in memory, and then we closed it now, but I think it might be, let's exit that. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 running in memory according to virus total, and nothing for Defender at this moment. Okay, let's close this off. Oh, I actually wanted to see if we have any startup items already. Okay, so for Defender we have quite a bit of startup items, as you guys can see. Let's see if they are reduced once we reboot and remove malware. For Kaspersky, only 1, so startup item seems much better on the Kaspersky machine versus the Defender. Okay, so for Defender it's obviously has all these malware, so I'm just going to start the action for that. For Kaspersky I'm going to do the same. It wants to resolve these threads, so I'm going to say resolve all. And then once they're all done, I'll do restarts and then start with the full scan. Okay guys, so all the tests have been completed. I'm just gonna apply this to the last. So the full scan for Windows Defender has been finished, as you guys can see. So I'm gonna restart this machine and then start with the third-party opinion scans. As soon as Kaspersky is done, I'll do the same for that and start the scans as well. Okay, so the malware has been quarantined on the Kaspersky machine. It took extremely long time to do so. It was quite slow to quarantine or delete the malware. So it seems like we've got 162 still left. Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart. 162 malware left. So if Kaspersky is done, I'm going to restart this machine and start with the third-party opinion scans. Okay, and the results are in, guys. So let's see what exactly happened. So let's start with Hitman Pro. Okay, so we have 27 versus 8. So let's see. We obviously have one in program files, which is this DS Studio. You guys will see that it's running here. Seems to be some Russian or Ukrainian type of language. I'm not sure. It's the same for Defender. So it's obviously these two. So we have two malwares there. I'll show you now. It's also rated on VirusTotal as malware. So we have those two. Then we've got malware in the malware folder, and then another file that's linked to that in the studio file as well. So we've got those three traces. The rest of it is just malware on the desktop. So for Defender we have exactly the same. Then we have one here under app data local inet cache. So there's one there. Same on this one. Seems to be PUAs or PUPs. Malware on the desktop, and so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus Kaspersky's 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's 3 for Kaspersky, 5 for Defender. But Defender did remove more malware compared to Kaspersky. So we'll see that there's 39 malware left versus 162 for Kaspersky. Okay, so we have a look at Norton. Okay, quite a bit more for Defender. So we obviously have this studio thing again, and studio, and then another app data temp folder. So there's one there. Okay, then for Defender, same thing again, temporary file, and then under public we've got a couple of URLs here under public. Okay, let's do mSisoft quickly. Okay, so we've got malware obviously on the desktop. Let's just change the locations again. Okay, so then we have that same problem again with the studio, and then malware on the desktop. Okay, and then seems to be that. So only mSisoft managed to pick up one of the studios, not all of them. Same for Defender. We have one here in local as well. That same one that Norton picked up, and that's about it. Only those couple of results. Okay, let's have a look at Malwarebytes. Okay, so documents and settings, obviously the shortcut to the studio file, and then obviously WinZip driver again. So these are all PUPs, and then the studio again, and then these files of the studio are rated as malware. So it's all the studio files, WinZip, driver update, it's all PUPs. Okay, still WinZip. A lot of WinZip files here. Sure, quite a bit of WinZip files. Alright, then it's just malware on the desktop. and then we've got a couple of registry key entries. Let's see. So actually quite a bit. Okay, so then we have system 32, obviously here system 32. Then we've got a couple of registry keys, and it looks like scheduled tasks. Okay, so we've got a couple of registry keys, unfortunately, according to Malwarebytes. And let's have a look on the Windows Defender. Shortcuts again for that studio, that same studio again, obviously WinZip, bunch of WinZip files. And then app data, system 32, also a couple of schedules, and also a couple of registry keys, but it looks like there are less registry keys for Defender than for Kaspersky, but I could be wrong. I think it's still very, very close. Okay, but still items detected is less. It's just due to Defender removed more malware on the desktop. Okay, so that is for them both. Okay, so let's quickly see what's running. Okay, so let's have a look at Process Explorer for the Kaspersky machine. Okay, let's quickly go through it. Okay, so the only ones that are standing out is obviously the studio one, which is a PUP plus also some of the files is rated as malware, and it's because it's running here. Let's see for Defender, should be the same. Yeah, so it's exactly the same for them both. They're unfortunately allowing this app to run. So we'll have a look at the virus total results. Okay, so as you guys can see, quite a bunch of companies are rating it as malware. Komodo, CrowdStrike, Dr. Web, MSciSoft, ESET, Kaspersky. Funny enough, not the virus downloader, so that's weird. Kaspersky is showing it here, but obviously not blocking it. Sophos and etc. So quite a bit of companies are labeling it. Let's just quickly have a look at the details. Yeah, so that's the same exe on the machines. Okay, so that's quickly in a nutshell. So obviously a lot of people are rating this at least as a PUP or as malware. Let's look at those startup items. Okay, so Kaspersky seems to have done a lot better in this section. So only obviously the one studio. For Defender we have obviously one. Oh yeah, and also the display control panel. Somehow one of the malwares added this. So as you guys can see, display control panel set to startup. So every time that pops up, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 startup items. I would say it's not supposed to be here. Maybe even the Windows terminal. So Kaspersky did a lot better in this section. Okay, let's close this up. Let's look at see if there's any damages to our files. Oh, let me just close WinZip here. Okay, so this is our desktop files. Everything seems to be intact. Let's look at our downloads. Okay, downloads are good. Documents. That's not a malware. That is just a backup configuration of the Kaspersky settings. So that's fine. Pictures. Okay, so at least no ransomware infection for both of them. So that's always a plus. Okay, so I think this is the end for this test, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. So I would say Kaspersky maybe for me did a tad better than Defender, but it is actually for me difficult to say actually who won. But if I purely have to state it on the startup items, obviously Kaspersky is the clear winner, but it is extremely close. So cons, unfortunately, for Kaspersky is it does allow that PC Studio thing to install, although it is rated on VirusTotal that they know about it, so I'm not sure how that slipped through. We obviously have the two POPs, Studio and WinZip, and some of the files for Studio is rated as malware. According to Malwarebytes, we have a couple of registry key entries, but the pros, I would say it still did really well, considering it's still a free antivirus. It's not a paid product. It did really well. The machine has no ransomware infection, and at least there's only one startup item, so I would say Kaspersky did really well. For Defender, the cons is pretty much the same as for Kaspersky. Also, the two POPs that are installed, unfortunately there are more startup items, funny startup items for Defender, but the pros is it did manage to remove more malware from the malware sample folder than Kaspersky, so it seems like the signatures are a tad better in that sense. But I would say the proactive defense for Kaspersky seems to be a tad better than Defender, but still Defender did really well. They're definitely stepping up their game. And yeah, I would say that's the end for this test, guys. Let me know what you guys thought. More tests coming soon. We'll only be doing a couple of more tests with Defender, then we'll end that. So we're not going to test Defender with every single product out there unless you guys ask for specific tests, but we are only going to do a couple of more tests with Defender, and then we'll jump back into third-party vendors versus one another. But yeah, so let me know what you guys thought about this video. It was informative, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.